Hello, moms and wonderful momtrepreneurs. So I'm so glad you can join me again for another chat for this segment um, with Life Unboxed. So I wanted to sit down with moms and just have them share their stories so that we as moms can be inspired by somebody else's story. So today I sit down with Amy Zopp. So she is an author and homeschooling mom of 7, soon to be 8, but she has a very special family. She has 4 biological kids and 3 adopted kids, but they're also in the process of adopting number 8. So she shares some practical tips on if you want to get started with this process and, kind of how to navigate, just some help to navigate through it a little bit. Um, and it was a really great conversation. I love hearing adoption stories. And so I am excited to bring this conversation to you. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Hi, Amy. Well, welcome to the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. I am Amy Zopp, and I have been married to my husband for almost 18 years. We have 7 children, 4 biological children, and 3 adopted children. Our oldest is almost 15, and our youngest just turned 6. And I work full-time at home. I homeschool the kids and keep everything running here. And that's it.
Okay. So, how old are your biological kids, and then how old are your adopted kids? Like, where do they all fit in?
Sure. My oldest 3 are all biological boys, and they go 14, 13. And then I have an adopted son who's 8, a biological daughter who's 8, and an adopted daughter who's 8. So,
you have triplets.
Yes. And then our little caboose right now is 6. But we're actually in process to adopt our 8th, and she'll come in between the 8-year-olds and the 6-year-olds. So yes, the triplets joined us at different times. So obviously the biological daughter's been with us since the beginning. My adopted daughter joined us when she was 16 months old. She was adopted from China, and my adopted son, Howie, he joined us after he turned 3. So when we had 3 3-year-olds, it was a bit of a circus, but we're best friends now, and it's really great. So
yeah, I can imagine I'm sure it's a very active household.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Have you homeschooled your kids the whole time, or have they ever gone to private school?
Mostly the whole time. We've moved a lot for my husband's job, and it's been the easiest way to keep things consistent for them. We did try a couple of little different school options in some other places that we lived. And hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a bit of control freak. So I actually enjoy doing the school myself more. And we also all enjoy slow mornings. And I did a summer camp this summer, and I had to pack lunches for all of them and get them out the door, like at a regular time every day. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is just not how I was made. So
yeah, my dad was military, so we moved around a lot. So if we had not been homeschooled, my sister and I would have attended like 3 or 4 high schools alone.
Right.
So sometimes it just makes it easier. So now you've adopted your kids, you said China, but also from Bulgaria, right?
Yes, our youngest is from Bulgaria, and the one that we're in process for now is in Bulgaria. So yes.
All right. So because I know a lot of people who have adopted out of China. And so Bulgaria is kind of a new country that I'm seeing is becoming I don't want to say more popular. I don't feel like that's the right word, but I guess a lot of people are starting to adopt from there. So why, what is it about Bulgaria that I guess is more open to adoption?
Right. So what we've seen in the last few years is several countries shutting down their international adoption programs. So, for example, although we hope that China reopens, they've been closed since COVID. So there's lots of waiting families hoping to get into China still, but right now you can't. And of course, Russia shut down some time ago. Ethiopia shut down. And so there are actually relatively few international countries available for Americans to adopt from. And also there are lots of regulations. So for example, our family went twice to China and then we were too large to adopt from China again. So there's rules even for their adoptive families. You're allowed to have it in your home. And so we had to, go by which countries do we qualify for, and all countries set their own rules with family size and how many parents are in the home and how much money do you make. And so I'm very, very organized, and I just made basically a checklist. This is where we're qualified to adopt from. And I just prayed over it, honestly. And we knew some people who had adopted from Bulgaria. And so we were able to connect with them first. And it seemed like a good fit. So,
okay. So what sparked this journey for you? Because like, I know from my friends who've adopted, this is not an easy thing to do. So you have to really be committed to the process. So tell us how it started.
It was actually my husband's idea, which is different. I've heard is very different, but we had 3 boys when he suggested it the first time. And my youngest at the time wasn't even a year yet. And so I still wasn't quite sane. And I remember very well, we were driving home from a splash park, and we lived in the Dallas, Texas area at the time. And he said, I think we should adopt a baby. I just looked at him, I've lost your ever loving mind. And he said, will you pray about it? And I just kind of raised my eyebrows and thought, I don't really want to.
You're like, I need to sleep first before.
I'm not sleeping. And, and so then we did pray about it. And a few months later, we talked about it again. And the process was daunting the first time, honestly. The paperwork and the financial commitment and things, we said yes before we knew how we were going to make it happen. And we just kind of, again, the paperwork is just organizational skills. It's chasing down one thing after another. And that first process took a long time. It took 2.5 years, and we were still fairly young. And that was helpful for us because the finances could come over the course of time instead of all at once. So that's how it started. We went for Laura. Kate was our first adopted child. She came home at 16 months, and it just changed our lives bringing her home. So, I mean, not only seeing the need, of course, that was very impactful, but also just seeing her transformation from this starving little girl to this beautiful young lady that she is now. And the same transformation for all the children who adopted with that group. It's just, it was just one of those experiences that you can never go back, and you're glad that you can't, but the person you were before no longer exists. So
what is one thing you wish you had known before starting the process? So I'm sure there's a lot. If you have more than one, that's fine.
Yeah, so the process itself, the first time I got started, they sent me the list of paperwork, and I actually cried because I just thought I could never do this. How am I ever going to do this? China process in particular is actually much more difficult than the Eastern Europe process. But I think I would have just told myself to take a deep breath and go piece by piece just for the process part. But I think what I wish I would have known, and what this process really has changed me a lot, is that you're going to just need to take your fingers off the controls and let God be God, because there are just lots of times that, again, my nature is that I want to know what's happening and have some piece of control in what's happening. And that just was not the case. It is not the case. And it ends up being okay. But the process itself, you feel like, oh my gosh, I have no control here. So,
no, I understand. Because if we have control, then we can fix it. We can make it all better.
Right.
So how long? So it took 2.5 years for the first one. What about for the next 2 plus the one in process?
Right. So a lot faster. Our son, we saw on a waiting child list, which was basically just kind of a list of children that our agency didn't have a family matched with him yet. And so from the time that we saw his picture to the time we picked him up was about 9 months.
Wow. Okay.
And same for our daughter. She was a waiting child as well. And it was during COVID. So it's a little bit longer. I think it was 10 or 11 months in between seeing her picture and picking her up.
Okay. So, because with China, you have to have an agency here in the US, right? Is it the same with Bulgaria?
Yeah. Placing agency here in the US who helps you with the legalities here in the United States. And then you also have an agency kind of contracted with your one here, working for you in Bulgaria and the Bulgarian courts and coordinating the legal road on that side of the ocean.
Okay. So I guess what are some of the challenges you face? I'm thinking of the parents who are considering adoption. Like, what advice would you just give to them about some of the things that you faced going through all of this whole process?
Right. The biggest challenge for me, and the biggest challenge adjustment that we had to make as far as our lifestyle, is that the kids, they came to us at a certain age, technically, but not in actuality. And so it's been helpful to be a homeschool family in that regard, because I can just meet them where they are. But it is, I still have to check myself mentally. For example, Emmeline came home last year and she's 6, but she acts like she's 2 or 3.
Okay.
And so, there's a part of us that's programmed to say, you should be acting like you're 6, even though in your head that she shouldn't be, because she didn't get anything for 5 years. And so it's been an adjustment. And so as far as therapies and school, things like that, because I move a lot, I've had to hustle to find those things for my kids. But I think that anyone who going into the process could do that in advance. That would be super helpful, because they do have different needs than your biological children have.
Right.
It's helpful to have them and be careful, especially with Laura. I was just really careful to put people in her life other than myself who told her that she could do whatever she wanted to do. Because there's just a lot of people who will say, you can't, you'll never. And I just didn't want that to be the song sung over her. So I think if I was adopting for the first time and not moving around every year and a half, I would try to, cultivate that culture around my family of people that are supportive. So.
Okay. So do you have any practical tips for blending the family? Because really you are blending, you have a blended family. So what would be some of your tips to just help with that process?
Right. I mean, we just have we have fun honoring their cultures in different ways. We like to celebrate certain Chinese holidays just because they're fun. There's a fall festival that China holds, and we love it. It's kind of like their Thanksgiving and similar-ish, but we love celebrating one every year. And we have decorations up in the house of, from their various adoption trips, and just, it's more of a daily honoring of their culture than the big events. We do like celebrating those holidays, but just being careful and the words around us. China and specifically has become a little touchy because people are relatively negative about China nowadays.
Right.
And so my son especially hears it a lot, and he'll say, I wish I wasn't from China. And so we have to, teach him some good history and fun things. He has fun learning about they invented gunpowder and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, he's an 8-year-old boy, so.
Exactly. Okay. So with 7 kids and you're homeschooling all of them and all of their different developmental levels, how do you structure your days to get everything done, or your week?
Yeah. So I mean, one of my biological kids is like all the charts gifted. And then I have all the way down to my little one who's like a 2-year-old. So I do a lot of family learning for history and sciences. And I make my big kids go do extra activities with whatever that topic is. So we did ancient history last year. And so we would do a family read aloud, that has to do with ancient history. And then my big ones would go off on their own and do extra read, whatever topic was, and extra writing assignments. I will say this year, I'm sending my 2 biggest ones off to a co-op because they've reached the peak of my science knowledge. And I just feel like they would benefit from someone else teaching them every now and then. But we all sit down together and do Bible and history and science. And then we kind of break apart, and I take turns doing, the grammar and the phonics and the math with them at their individual levels. And I assign them a little child to play with while I'm doing that. So for example, I'm doing phonics with this one, so you're doing a puzzle with that one. And it's part of their school day. It works. So it works most days. Some days not, but most days it does.
No, I do the same thing with my older kids, and especially when they're helping with the younger kids' schoolwork. I'm like, okay, you're doing reading, you're doing this, you're doing that.
Yeah.
And it just helps.
Yes.
So you're a homeschool mom, you're an adoptive mom, but you're also an author.
Oh, yeah.
So share with us.
So my my third biological son, Jacob, the 10-year-old, he is dyslexic. And if you had talked to me 2 or 3 years ago, I would have just told you he's never going to read. It's official. He's just never going to read. And I was a literature and reading teacher. And so it was just such a humbling experience because his brain works so much differently than a non-dyslexic child. And so I listened to a podcast with a dyslexia specialist, and just the light bulbs came on. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be teaching him in a much different way. And so anyway, long story short, during the time that I was how to teach him properly, he can read now, by the way, he does read. He was obsessed with snakes. I mean, like every read had to be a snake book or whatever. And so he was mad, though. He didn't ever want to be. Snake was always the villain. And he would always go on and on about how wonderful snakes are. Why does it always have to be the bad guy? And so we were at the beach one day, and I just did this little silly sketches of Jake the super snake. My son's name is Jake. And so I wrote all these little adventures of Jake the super snake. And in each little adventure, he shows off a snake superpower. So in the first one, he eats a rat in the kitchen for the mom. and so my parents, saw it. We were with them at the beach, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you should try to get these published." And I like, "Oh, this is so fun." So the first one just came out a couple of weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I guess now. It's called Jake the Super Snake. And then the second one, it should be out actually. It's called Jake the Super Snake Goes to School. And the school bully gets musk on, which is another snake superpower, where the snake it's kind of like a skunk, he gets mad and he shoots off this smoke on the school bully. And so we'll see. I actually have more adventures, and I'm just kind of waiting in, seeing how these little adventures do, and whether I want to keep going. The next one, he goes patient and eats a snake. So anyway, it's just a silly little thing that I did for my son, and the language is very simple because at the time he was just barely reading, and it's just a fun little adventure story about a snake. So
sounds like fun.
And it's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad that I have it to give to my kids. So we'll see if it actually sells. So.
I know, that's always a big question.
Well, the market is so saturated. I mean, you go to the children's department, there's about 1.5 million books there. I'm like, what are the odds? Who knows?
Yeah. So what do you do as a mom to recharge?
I'm a runner. Well, I play at it. I don't like really calling myself a runner, but I like to run. I try to run at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
And so I love that. And then I wake up before my kids and enjoy the quiet and read my Bible and and just enjoy some silence because it's rare here.
Yes, it is. I know sometimes my oldest son will get up because he has to take care of the dog. And I just look at him. I'm like, you're not allowed to talk to me right now. This is my time and you cannot talk.
Yeah. I may have said some similar things. Yes. They'll wake up sometimes and look at me with my Bible, and they know now, but when they were a little younger, I would say, you can sit there if you make no noise. No questions.
Exactly. No questions. This is the big one. So as we wrap up, I have 2 more questions for you. So what is your favorite part of being a mom?
Mm-hmm. Watching these little people turn into amazing humans. I mean, you start with the baby snuggles, which I actually miss sometimes, but now big ones are turning into these tiny adults, and they're delightful and they're such fun. And I just have so much fun with them. I mean, I know it's going to sound silly, but one of my favorite times of the day is when my little ones are asleep and me and the big ones are playing Mario Kart. It's just so fun. And the more serious, I was watching one of the older ones help the younger one invent a game yesterday. And I thought, y'all are turning into these delightful people, and I get the front row, and I just love it. They're just amazing.
Great. And where can everyone find you?
I'm sorry?
Where can everyone find you?
Oh, I stink at it. I'm on social media, but I really stink at it. So, but you can message me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk adoption or homeschooling or anything. I'm on a bunch of boards on Facebook, stuff like that. But I'll be honest, my phone gets shoved in the drawer for most of the day. So I kind of stink at being any sort of presence on social media, but I am there if they want to find me.
All right. Sounds good. And I will definitely leave the links for your Amazon links for your book in the show notes.
Okay. All right.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so glad you were able to come and share your stories with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.